All right.
Why are we looking in here, man?
I want you to look back for a second. I just want to finish something up. I have some good news and some bad news, by the way. The good news is that I avoided giving my wife the credit card this morning. The bad news is I had to give her cash. But the good news is that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to get eliminated in the first round. That's you can take that. Take it to the bank, boys. Take it to the bank.
It's on film?
Or take it. It's on record. Okay. And not only that, I hope it's on a 57-yard field goal in the last second. You know, so they cut their hearts out with a rusty knife. Okay, so I want to go back for 1 second. When Yaakov gives the bracha, we had spoken about a couple of days ago about that he compares them to fish. He compares Ephraim and Menashe, page 272. He compares Ephraim and Menashe to fish. And a part of the idea here is that there's a statement in the Gemara that there are three creatures, the older they get, the stronger they get. Statement in the Gemara. There's a fish, a snake, and a pig. The older they get, they add strength.
The snake, fish, and what's the third one?
The pig. And so obviously the idea here is, the Gemara doesn't just tell us biological facts or zoological facts for no reason. The Gemara is obviously trying to convey an idea. Fish are always symbolic of Torah scholars. One of the reasons is because they swim in the water, and water is compared to Torah. Water is always compared to Torah. Ein mayim ela Torah, the Gemara says. Water is Torah because the most basic form of you can exist without food for a while. I mean, as you guys see, you're in Yeshiva, so you can exist without food for a while. But you can't exist without water. And Torah is water because the most basic nutrient in life. So the fish, representing the Torah scholar, he gets stronger as he gets older. His Torah scholarship increases. He becomes a greater Torah scholar. So, but Yaakov's bracha to Ephraim and Menashe, they should be like fish, is that they should be obviously live a life of spirituality, a life of Torah, and they should constantly increase in their Torah wisdom and their Torah dedication. A snake, obviously, a snake always represents the evil inclination. That's the first time we meet the snake. The serpent is in the Garden of Eden, and he represents the Yetzer Hara, and that there's no weakening of the Yetzer Hara. That means there's a statement in the Gemara, Kol hagodol mechavero yitzro godol himeno. One who's greater than his friend, the greater you are, the stronger your Yetzer Hara is. Now that's a very difficult statement to understand, because there's actually a story. The Gemara says that Abaye was once walking, and he saw a young man and a young lady, and they started traveling together. They were traveling alone together, and so Abaye followed them for, I think the Gemara says, 3 parsos, what we call it 3. He followed them like as a chaperone for 3 miles, that there shouldn't be any hanky-panky. And he just followed them. At a certain point, they said to each other, wow, it's so nice to travel together, but we have to go our separate ways. And they went off their separate ways. And Abaye was depressed. Abaye says, boy, if that was me, I for sure would have done an Avera. That's what Abaye said. So he was very depressed. And so an old man saw Abaye. And we have a tradition that anytime it says Hahu Sava in the Gemara, when it says that old man, it's referring to Eliyahu Hanavi. And I said to Abaye, don't be depressed. One who's great, the greater you are, the bigger Yetzer Hara you have. Now, if you stop and think about that, if by that logic, we should see that the most immoral people are great rabbis. They should be all running around the world, committing averas. So we don't find that. You find that the people with the greatest self-control are the rabbis. So what does it mean the greater you are, the bigger your Yetzer Hara is? So there are different explanations. It's a good question, right? What does it mean? And that's a statement in the Gemara. You'd think you should see all the rabbis in Ohr Somayach should be out doing averas based on the people in the clubs should all be a bunch of tzaddikim, but we don't find that. So why why aren't the rabbis at Machane Yehuda every night or at Ben Yehuda Street every night? You don't know where we are every night, but okay, but you could assume we're not. So why? So why? What's going on? The answer is that a lot of Yetzer Hara has to do with imagination. The farther you're removed from something, Abaye is saying, if I was him, I would have done an Averis. No, I wouldn't have. He didn't do Averis when he was younger. He did Averis when he was older. It's specifically an older man who says to Abaye, the greater you are, the bigger the Yetzer Hara, because the bigger you are, the more farther removed you are for something, the greater your imagination. The Yetzer Hara is all imagination. The Yetzer Hara is all imagination. And when you're involved in it, like, it's no big hack, it's no big deal. Once you move away from it, you're thinking to yourself, boy, if I was there, what I would have done if I was in that situation, how could anybody possibly activate any self-control in that situation? Because you're so far removed from it. Guys have argued with me, and this comes up all the time. Guys have said to me, when they were back in university or back with their friends, they were around girls all the time. A lot of girls who had clothing allergies, and it didn't affect them. Also, they went off to yeshiva. They're working on trying to control their eyes, trying to control their temptations. And every time you get on the train or you get on the bus, and it doesn't mean you see a lady who's 91 and you're already ogling her. Well, what happened to me over here? What happened over here? And that never bothered me before. The answer is, yes, it did. Yes, the answer is it did. Except that if you're wearing a muddy shirt, your shirt is coated with mud, and somebody throws a splotch of mud on it, you're not going to notice it. So if you're on a college campus, you're getting your muddy all over the place. You don't realize what it's doing to you because it's all over the place. When your shirt is clean and somebody throws a splotch of mud on you, so then it shows up. Because as a person detaches himself from it, all of a sudden he becomes more sensitized to it, and a lot of imagination kicks in. So the Nachash, the serpent, represents the Yetzer Hara, that the Yetzer Hara gets stronger as a person gets older because it's much more subtle. At that point, there's much more imagination. And imagination dominates us. In life, imagination, you ever heard the expression, guy says, I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. No, you can't. First of all, it's not kosher. Second of all, maybe a small chicken. You take 3 bites of horse, you'll be done. You have 3 sandwiches of horse, you're done. You can't eat the whole horse. You can't eat a whole. But I'm so hungry. I'm sorry. Did it ever happen to you at the end of Yom Kippur? If you're like the end of Yom Kippur like this, let's be honest, guys. I'm no more righteous than you are. Kind of as Yom Kippur, as we're heading towards the end of Yom Kippur, you're starting to imagine what you're going to consume to break your fast. It's going to be like a banana barge. That used to be at the what do you call it? At the Baskin Robbins. I'm going to give you a banana barge. Right? If you can eat one of those in like 4 minutes, then you get a second one. Right? And then you eat the second one, then they take you to the hospital. But so you're imagining, well, you go, boy, I'm going to knock out. Then after Yom Kippur, you eat half a sandwich, and you're already like, you have 1 slice of pizza, and I'm actually pretty good right now. And the only reason I keep going is because I've got a reputation to keep. I can't tell people that's all I had at the end of Yom Kippur is 1 slice of pizza. You got to have 4, wedge them together. You take 4, you wedge them together, right, and eat it like a crocodile swallowing a dolphin. You kind of take down because you got a reputation. It's all imagination. That's why even at the beginning of Yom Kippur, what happens at the beginning of Yom Kippur? Where are you 10 minutes before Yom Kippur? If you're what? No, 10 minutes before Yom Kippur, you're drinking. Everybody's water, and everybody has a special, that magical number that you won't get thirsty. Either 3 cups of water, 7 cups of water, 613 cups of water. This is guaranteed. What happens 10 minutes into Yom Kippur? You're like, thirsty. Could be a dry one this year. Right? As every year's been a dry one. Is that amazing? And then as Yom Kippur ends, you think to yourself, I could probably really fast tomorrow if I really wanted to. And you don't, because we don't want to. But that's not so bad. It's all imagination. The minute you're told you can't, that's why there's an expression, "Mein geduvim im taku," the stolen waters are sweet. As soon as it's off limits, then you want it. So off limits, you want it. So the second thing that gets constantly stronger is the nachash, is the Yetzer Hara. And the third thing is a pig. And a pig obviously represents a person whose physical desires are out of control. Physical desires, unless you work on them, Physical desires get stronger. At a certain age, they start to dissipate. But in a person's in the physical desire zone, so physical desire is addictive, and if a person doesn't work on controlling it, so a person will control him. And that's why Yosef gives them the bracha that they should be like fish, because fish are symbolic of the Torah scholar who's in the water. Now, take a look at Pasuk Perik Mem Ches. Yaakov is going to start giving the brachas now. Sorry, Perik Mem Tes. Page 274. Page 274. 2 lines from the top. Vayomer Yisrael el Yosef. Hine anochi mes. I'm going to die, or I'm about to die. V'hoya Elokim imachem. God will be with you. Vayechi v'eschem al eretz avosechem. He will return you to the land of your fathers. V'ani nasati lecha shchem achad al achecha. I have given you one portion over your brothers. Asher lakachti miyad ha'emori b'charbi uvikashti, which I conquered from the Amori with my sword and with my bow and arrow. Uvikashti, with my bow, meaning the bow and arrow. Now, first of all, according to some, this one portion that he's giving Yosef is actually the portion of Shechem. The city of Shechem, that's where Kever Yosef is, right? Because Kever Yosef is in Shechem. So he gives this portion of Shechem, he gives it to Yosef. And Rashi says Shechem Mamish. The actual Shechem will be one portion extra that Yosef gets over the brothers. Why is Yosef entitled to Shechem? Why is Yosef entitled to Shechem? Shechem is where he was sold. And who does Yosef marry? Yosef marries Osnas. Now, where did Osnas come from?
Egypt.
She what?
Egypt, Potiphar's daughter.
Potiphar's adopted daughter. Who was she really? She was Dinah's daughter when she was violated by who?
Wow.
By Shechem. So really, who's entitled? And then they wiped out the city of Shechem. So who's really entitled by rights to the city of Shechem is Osnas, who's Dinah's daughter, and therefore Yosef is entitled to Shechem, just from a legal point of view. Okay, number one. Number two, Yaakov says, I conquered Shechem from the Amori, Becharbi uvikashti, with my sword and my bow. Now take a look at Rashi. Right column of Rashi, 5 lines from the top. If you see it, please show the person next to you. Rashi says, Becharbi uvikashti, Kishehorgu Shimon v'Levi es anshe Shechem, when Shimon and Levi killed the people of Shechem, Nichnesut kol sivosem lizdaveg lahem. Everybody ganged up on them. Listen, you got these Jews who are killing, Jews who are wiping out Gaza, so the whole world gets together and gangs up on the Jews. Everything. There's nothing new. It's all been done before. So they go out and they wipe out some ethnic cleansing in Shechem. So the rest of the world, and they needed to be cleansed, and the rest of the world then goes and gangs up on them. V'chovgar Yaakov klei milchamto kenegdan. Yaakov, then he girded himself with his weapon, and he went to war with them. That's the plain meaning. The Yaakov, there was actually a fight which the Torah doesn't even tell us about. Now skip to the next column. 3 lines from the top. V'charbi uvikashti. Hi chochmasi utfilasi, my wisdom and my prayer. Doesn't sound like a sword to bow to me. Rashi says it has to do with his wisdom and his prayer. Take a look at Unkelus. I remember a Rabbi in Cheder used to call him Uncle Lewis. Right? Take a look at Unkelus. Right, it's 5 lines into the Unkelus. If you show it, it's right opposite the Chumash. Okay, this is the Aramaic translation. And it's 5 lines in, Pasuk Chof Beis. Okay, everybody see that? If you make sure the person next to you sees it. V'ano Yehavis lachulak chad. I will give you one portion, yatir al achach, more than your brothers. Dinasevis midad Amorai, which I took from the Amorim, bitzlosi ubivausi, with my prayer and my supplication. The sword and the bow represents prayer and supplication. So the first question, where was their prayer and supplication? So it said earlier when they went to conquer Yaakov davened that they should succeed, that Shimon and Levi should succeed in wiping out the people of Shechem. That's the prayer and the supplication. Okay, but the commentaries ask like this. You know, for Onkelos translates it as the Aramaic translation. Where did they get the idea that the sword and the bow is not the literal meaning of a sword and a bow? Where did they get that idea? Why would he translate it as prayer and supplication if sword and a bow sounds like weapons? They had a fight. Why are you taking it completely out of context? And Yaakov says, I conquered it with my prayer. That's the question the Mefarshim ask. And the answer, it should be obvious. If you were fighting, in the ancient world, war was much more personal. You went in, you stabbed people, you clobbered people. We used to fight with tinker toys. We'd make either a sword. I liked the club. I'd make one of these clubs, like one of these things, and I smacked my brother with the club. That was always better. They're less subtle. He was more subtle. He tried stabbing with the thing. I just, go straight with the club. Especially from the back, where he's not looking. That was my best position. But where does he get this from? Where does Rashi get this? Where does Onkelos get this? And Rashi says, also with his wisdom and his prayer, why are they taken out of context? The answer is, in the ancient world, war was very personal. Nowadays, war is some guy sitting in a computer room, hitting a few buttons, just took out Syria. Oh, darn it. I was trying to go for Iran. 1 second. There goes Iran. There goes North Korea. Just like that. That's how war is it was very personal. Now, imagine you're fighting, you're one of those ancient guys who's going off to war. What comes first in war? What comes first in war? Arrows or swords? Definitely. I definitely thought about this. If I was like an ancient warrior, I definitely want to be an archer. Then you get to stand in the back and just shoot, shoot them up and see what happens. The other guy with the sword, that's dangerous. You got the arrow, you can start, dang, the guys on your team who you don't like, you can nail one of them in the leg also. Oh, sorry, it slipped. And you're up there on the wall between the things just shooting down at people. You got a lot of job satisfaction. The sword is dangerous. Here, the Torah reverses the order. It says with the sword and with the bow and arrow. It doesn't come there. It usually should have said with the bow and with the sword, not with the sword and with the bow. You fight with the bow before you fight with the sword. So obviously we can't be talking about a literal bow and a sword over here. So what are we talking about? There are two types of prayers. There's one prayer which is a sword, and there's one prayer which is a bow. What's the difference? The difference is that a sword is inherently sharp. If you fall on a sword, a person falls on a sword, he can get killed. Sword is sharp. You don't need any force for it. That's the standard liturgy, the siddur that we have, which was compiled by the men of the Great Assembly with Ruach HaKodesh. It's got an inherent force. When you say the words in davening, if your mind ever wanders when you daven, whenever your mind, not if, when your mind wanders during davening, so you can get discouraged, like, boy, I didn't get much out of that. If it was the words, the men of the Great Assembly, your tefillah has a potency. The more you can stay focused in davening, which is why I always say, drink some coffee, get an energy drink, something before Shacharis. You're allowed to drink coffee before Shacharis. Do drugs. Anything that's going to pick you up before you get to Shacharis. And the more kavanah that you have, that's what cocaine was created for, right? A guy actually said that to me once. A guy said that to me, not in the yeshiva. He said to me, I asked him once because he told me that in England you got these fancy businessmen, and they're working big, corporate executives, and he told me that in England, the minhag is they then go and drink their lunch. They have a few beers for lunch, and they get soused. So I asked the guy, well, how can you continue functioning the rest of the day? He said, well, that's what cocaine is created for. So that sounds like a great diet, beer and cocaine, must be very healthy. So then they wonder in England why they get all sorts of problems. So if you daven and you don't have great kavanah, but it's the liturgy from the siddur, there is an effect. It has an inherent effect. It's sharp like a sword. What about your own personal petitions, which you're allowed to make during davening? So, if you get to at the end of davening, after you hilu ratzon, and you start saying, please Hashem, I need parnasa, and you're miles away, that means nothing. You're talking to a king and your mind is, so you're spacing out. That means nothing. A bow, an arrow, the force, the strength, the effect of the arrow is only going to be to the degree that you pull on the bow. and to the degree that you pull on the bow is going to create the force of the arrow. So there are two types of prayers. There's the standard liturgy, which do the best you can, but even if you didn't do very well, it has an effect. And then there's that solusi. Ubausi is the bow and arrow. That means your own personal petition, but your personal petition, you got to be there for it. You got to be present. Because if you're not present, you're just saying words to God. That doesn't mean anything. So those are two types of prayers, number one. Number two, other Meforshim understand, one of the Meforshim says, Bechar B'Yukashti is the battle of the Yetzer Hara. It's the battle against the evil inclination. Now, how do they see that in the words, the sword and the bow and arrow? Because unlike a human enemy, where do human enemies start? Usually from a distance and they come closer to you. Where does the evil inclination start? He starts close up. And then you got to keep him farther away. That's the sword, the bow and arrow. The first thing is you got to poke him away with the sword. Opposite of a regular physical war. In a physical war, you start with the bow and arrow and then you go to the sword. When you're fighting the evil inclination, fighting the Yetzer Hara, you got to poke. He's there from the moment we're born. You notice that he's there when you wake up in the morning? He gets up for nates every morning. You ever notice that? As soon as you get up in the morning, he's there to tell you stay in bed. You ever notice that? He's always up. How do you like that? He's always up, and he's there to tell you to stay in bed. And he's there to tell you to go dray around. He's always with you. So the first thing is you got to move him away. How do you move him away from up close? You can't use a bow and an arrow. Up close, you got to use a sword, so you poke him away. Then, once he's away, you keep him distant. How do we keep him distant? How do we keep him distant? You keep him distant by, what do they say, the best defense is a good offense? If you're doing mitzvahs and you're learning, that's how you keep them distant. You don't keep them distant by saying stay distant. And walk around all day, don't look at anything, don't look at anything, don't look at anything, that doesn't anything. All you're going to do is stumble. You actively get involved in something that is productive, that's what keeps them away. The more you're actively doing good things, so that he's going to stay away from you. Okay. Then Yaakov embarks on the brachas. Okay. So the first one that he gives a bracha to is Reuben. Now take a look. Take a look at Reuben loses the being the firstborn. He loses being the king, and he loses being the Kohen. And what does Yaakov say to him? Top of page 276. Why is it that Reuben is not going to get it? Now, we spoke about this a few weeks ago, but the concept is an important concept. Pachaz kamayim, because you were, how does it translate, impetuous? There it is, water-like impetuosity. Ooh. Pachaz kamayim, because you were impetuous or spontaneous like water. Al tosar, you will not get the extra portions. You were going to be the king, you're going to be the kohenim, you're going to be the firstborn. You lose it all. Ki alisa mishke ve'avicha, because you got involved in your father's bed when he used it. Reuven mixed around the beds. Az chilalta yitzui Allah. Okay, you desecrated my couch. That's how the article translates it. Why is it? You know, I told you there are certain times where people feel what's the big word today? When you're prejudiced, you're biased, you're anti. If somebody applies for medical school, whatever ethnic group they happen to be, whether they're Jewish or other, and they did horrible in school, they did horrible on their SATs and their MCATs, they did horrible on all grades they've ever taken, they did horrible academically, and they apply to medical school, you don't accept them. So, you know, if we're Jewish, like, anti-Semitism. You know, it's anti-Semitism. Every time a Jew ever gets arrested for breaking the law, it's anti-Semitism. No, it isn't. He broke the law. They'll break the law. Well, I didn't get arrested yet, right? Well, and back in the day, but not now. You know, so I didn't get anti-Semitism. No, you broke the law, so you got arrested. You didn't qualify for medical school, therefore we didn't let you in. I saw anti-Semitism. You're against this ethnic group, that ethnic group. You didn't qualify. I told you, I want to be a pilot in the Air Force. I like to fly F-15s, F-16s, F-30. What do you call the 30?
32s, 35s.
The 35s. Yeah, I think I'd be good. F-35s. You know, kind of hit those buttons. You know, blow things up. That'd be fun. They won't let me into the Air Force. Why not? Poor vision, fear of heights, get dizzy when I'm moving fast. Why don't you let me in? What do you got against me? What have you got against? I got nothing against you. You don't qualify. You just don't qualify. That's why it's not a question. I want to be on the team. but you can't shoot, pass, or dribble, so we can't put you on the thing. What have you got against me? Because I'm Jewish. Anti-Semitism. No, you're just not good at anything that we need you to be good at. So what do you need to be a king? What do you need to be a king? Yaakov is telling Reuben, you're not being punished. It's not a punishment. You've demonstrated that you don't qualify to be the king. Why not? Because you acted impetuously. Pachaz kamayim. Now, water, the obviously comparison to water is that, if you open up a dam and the water starts flooding, it just takes down everything in its way. There's no thought process over it. Just take everything in its way. Everything gets taken down. I'll get to you 1 second. Everything gets taken down. What's the pachaz kamayim by Reuven? You were emotionally guided. Something happened, you got rattled, and you reacted to it. You can't be a king. I can't have a guy being the king who's responding emotionally. A king has to be in control. He can't be controlled. That's the definition of being a king. Circumstances cannot shape you. You have to shape the circumstances. That's why it's compared to water. When you put water in a utensil, any utensil you put water in, water takes the shape of the utensil. So the water is being shaped. It's not doing the shaping. Yaakov says to Reuven, I can't have you be the king because you demonstrated, not because of a punishment. Not a punishment. It's like your father grounds you when you got a ticket for speeding 45 miles an hour over the speed limit, and your father says, okay, I'm taking away the car for 3 weeks. Why are you punishing me? I'm not punishing you. I'm not punishing you. You're not qualified to drive. I can't have you on the streets driving. It's not the punishment. You're just saying you're not qualified. I can't have you doing driving. You demonstrated that you don't qualify. So Yaakov is saying to Reuven, I'm not punishing you. You don't qualify. I can't put you be as a king. You can't be the king when every little thing's going to happen. You're going to go flying off the handle. I can't have that. I can't be a king. A king has to be somebody who's in control, not he's being controlled. What are we going to ask?
There's two pieces. Reuben, number one, he thought he was doing like the right thing at the time, and also I thought he was like he was supposed to be like a beacon of repentance. No, like he was supposed to be.
You could repent. You could repent as much as you want, but you've already shown an inherent character trait. You repent. Listen, we didn't say you're a Russia, but you're not qualified. You're just not qualified. A guy told me once. I have a friend who was Israeli. So he said in the Israeli Air Force, they're constantly to fly these planes. You got to have such a combination of qualifications. You have to first of all, physically you have to be able to tolerate the what do they call which what are they? The G forces. I would call the X forces. Right? I'm just thinking of my test papers in high school. You have to be able to tolerate the G forces and not get dizzy and not vertigo and all these things that happen. You have to know the computer system. You have to be calm. All these qualifications, it all rolled into one. They're constantly testing these guys in the Air Force. The guy said they're constantly testing them to see their reactions. So he gave me an example. He said, for example, a guy will talk. A guy on the show. He said the commander wants to see you in the office. So he knocks on the door. Commander says, "Come in." And he walks in. The commander says, "You didn't close the door." If he turns around to check if he closed the door or not, he will not fly a plane. I can't have a guy flying an F-35 if you don't know if you closed the. Did I set off that missile or I didn't? I can't remember. Not because you're not okay. And if you say to the commander, I did close the door, you're also not going to fly a plane because it's not how you talk to a commander. There's only one correct response, and the correct response is, "Sir, I closed the door, but if you want me to check, I'll check again." There's only one correct. And if you don't get the correct, it's not like, okay, next time I'll say the right thing. It doesn't work. It means it's a demonstration that you're missing the instinctive reaction. It's almost like trying to study for a blood test. You can't study for a blood test. It's either you got it or you don't. So either you got it or you don't. You did tshuva? That's wonderful. You did tshuva. Wonderful. We'll give you an aliyah in shul, but I'm not making you the king. I'm not making you the king. Okay, let's go on. Take a look at, where is it? What's the next one? 1 second. Skip to Yehuda. This is pretty cool. You have to see this inside. In Perik Mem Pasuk Yud. So it says like this. Yehuda ata yoducha achecha. Your brothers will acknowledge you. Yodcha be'oref oivecha yishtachu lecha b'nei avicha. Your brothers, your father's sons are all going to bow down to you. And he tells Yehuda is going to be like a lion. And then look at the top of page 2. Now you have to follow this inside, John. You have to see this inside. So he says, Lo Yosor Shevet mi Yehuda, the staff. How does he? The scepter. That's the word I want. The scepter will not leave Yehuda. Umechokek mi bein raglov. The what does he say? The scepter shall nor a scholar from among his descendants. Ad yovo Shiloh, until Shiloh comes, which alludes to the Mashiach. V'lo yikasami, he will gather all the nations together. Now, you ready for this, gentlemen? Watch this. Starting from the first word, lo. Okay? With the first word, lo. Look at the first letter after that word lo on the top line. Look at the first letter of each word. You see where it says lo, yosur is a yud, shevet is a shin. You see that? You see what I'm referring to?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you put all those first letters together, the way it reads like this, page 278, top line 278. Lo, starting with the word lo, it's a full word. Yud shin, lo yesh, there isn't. Lo yesh, there is not. The next three letters, mem vav mem, mum is a blemish. First three letters are the first three words. Raglov ad is ra. Lo yesh mum ra. There is no bad blemish. And look at the next four letters. Chaf, yud, shin, vav. Ki yeshu. Like Yeshka. There's no bad blemish like Yeshka. That's what the Rashi Teva says. Lo yesh mum ra ki yeshu. Now Yeshka is called Yeshu because Yeshu is an acronym. You know that? Yeshu is an acronym. It stands for Yemach Shemo V'Zichro. May his memory and name be blotted out. That's what it stands for. May his name and memory be blotted out. Now, what's remarkable about this is where does this Rashi Tevis appear? I'm not making this up, by the way. There's a commentary says. Where does this appear? It appears in the pasuk that's talking about the Mashiach. So in the pasuk that's talking about the king and the Messiah and the Mashiach, Shiloh is the Mashiach, it alludes to the effect that there's going to be a false Mashiach. And I told you, there's nothing, we're not apologetic about this, that he was considered a mamzer. He was born by a married woman who had cohabited with another man, and he was executed by the Sanhedrin, and we have no problem saying it. And those that accuse us of killing their God, our response is, you're right. You know, you got anybody else want to go? You know, we have no apologetics here. The Torah alludes to it right here in this pasuk. Then it says, Osri lagefen iro, talks about the property of Yehuda, third line. Osri lagefen iro v'lasoreka b'nei asono. How does he translate it? He will tie his donkey to the vine branches his donkey's foal. That's exactly what I thought. The meaning that his land is going to be very rich. They're going to It's going to produce wonderful grapes. Kibes bayayin levusho is going to wash his clothing in wine, which is obviously an allegorical metaphor for how much wine there's going to be. Boy, that would be great. Laundry detergent. What are you using today? Wine. You know, and you're just soaked in wine. Uvedam anovim suslo. And he will launder his garment in his robe in the blood of grapes. A very, very dramatic. It's a very dramatic way of telling us how rich the land is going to be. But this is what the next passage is what I want to get to. Chachlili einayim yain. His eyes are going to be red from wine. People who drink, your eyes turn bloodshot. Yeah. He said, yeah. People get bloodshot when they drink. Yes, you take a look at yourself in the mirror if you can see straight. Uleven shinayim micholov, and his teeth will be white from milk. Now, in this pasuk, uleven shinayim micholov, again, this alludes to the idea that Yehuda's land is going to be very rich and fertile. Uleven shidai michalav means that the Gemara says, better is one who whitens his teeth. On this pasuk, it says, your teeth will be white for milk. Better is one who whitens his teeth to his fellow than giving him a cup of milk. How do you like that? What does that mean? Better to whiten your teeth, better one who whitens his teeth to his fellow, to his friend, than giving his friend a cup of milk. Anybody got an idea what I mean?
Like smiling?
Like smiling. Like smiling. Now, I want to ask you a question. When's the last time you drank milk? Okay. When's the last time you gave your friend a cup of milk? Guy comes into your house, what do you offer him? You offer a beer, water. I guess it's cheap, right? What do you offer? A guy comes in, a cup of water, okay. Cup of coffee, cup of beer, Pepsi, right? The last thing last time I offered a friend of mine milk, probably when we were 3. And he came over, and if it was me, then it was my mother doing the offering. I don't remember offering, hey, guy, come on in. Whoa, nice to see you. Boom, want some milk? You're not Patrick Ewing doing a commercial over here? Got milk? What's with the milk all of a sudden? What's with the milk? When's the last time you offered somebody milk? And the Gemara says it. So what did you say? Smiling. Leven shinaim, whitening your teeth to somebody means obviously you smiled. You smile, you're showing, you're flashing your teeth. We're not talking about cannibals. We're talking about somebody who's looking at it, he has to give a big smile, and he sees your teeth. What does that mean? That is preferable. That's better than giving him a cup of wine milk. And tell me, whitening your teeth is better than giving him a Budweiser. They'll get your attention. And then you'll say, no, it isn't. Give me the Bud, will you? Well, why milk? What's the idea here?
Milk being associated with mercy.
Milk is associated with mercy. Where did that come? I never heard it put that way. Is there the source you have for that? Or
I've heard that before.
the milk is mercy? Okay, could be.
Like in the sense of like mixing meat and milk, that you're mixing mercy and cruelty.
Okay, that could be the where does the mercy of okay? It's on the same milk and money.
Milk and honey.
Oh, milk and honey. I thought you said milk and money. Land of milk and money. Yeah, because the milk went up in price. That's why it's a land of milk and money. No. Where do you think of when you think of milk?
Nutrition.
Yes, most basic form of human nutrition. A baby nurses from the mother. People with the cow, people drink milk, and they always say, drink milk. It's good for your bones. It's good for this. It's good for that. It's good for the milk company. Good for everybody. Drink milk. Every human being, a basic need, an emotional need, is to feel that you're accepted, to feel that you're approved of. It's a basic need. We're not talking about it pursuing. We're not talking about honor. Everybody needs to feel that somehow they're accepted, somehow they're approved of. The way you approve, the way you accept of somebody is you smile. It's the most basic form of approval. Showing play. That's why Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says in 3 different places. Greet everybody. You should greet people with a friendly countenance. You should greet people with a happy countenance. It says be the first to greet other people. There's a lot of discussion about greeting. The Gemara says Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, who never went 4 amos. The Gemara says Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai never went 4 amos without reciting Torah. Never went 6 feet without his lips. He was constantly reciting Torah, especially in those days where he had to memorize a lot because it wasn't written down. Yet, the Gemara says, no one ever beat Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. He's the Gadol Hador. He was the leader of the generation. No one ever beat him to the greeting. Afilu nachri b'shuk. Even a goy in the marketplace, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai greeted him first. We're talking about the crudest, coarsest construction worker without a shirt, with a beer in one hand, and a milk in the other hand, yeah, sure. And a Marlboro in the other hand, and a cheeseburger in his mouth, and Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai greets him first. Because that's basic human approval. And therefore the Torah is telling you that to smile at somebody, that's why whenever I go into government, I like doing this when I have to go into some, like where there's some, receptionist, and she's looking, and I'm waiting to get there, and she's always looking down, and she looks up, and I was like, I had to make sure she sees me with a smile, because it always gets a dull. It's like, Ken. And it's like, whoa, why is he smiling? Somebody once said, if you smile, people think you're up to something. You know something they don't know. If you walk around with a smile, you obviously know something. Right? Why are you smiling? Nobody ever says, why are you frowning? People always say, why are you smiling? You ever notice that? They say, why are you smiling? And they've done, is that true or not true? Yeah. Why are we smiling? Well, why not? Why not? I'll give you a list of why not. How's that? Well, why are you smiling? The answer is, and if people are asking you that, by the way, that means you don't smile enough. If you're a person who's always smiling, people won't be asking you. But if you're smiling, first of all, they've done physiologically. I've once read, it must be true because I read it at Ripley's, believe it or not. I think you use fewer muscles when you smile than when you're frowning. That's true. Apparently, it's true. Well, they say it is anyway. Not only that, when you talk to somebody on the phone, I don't know about your phones, but back on the regular phones, on normal phones, you could hear somebody smiling through the phone. You actually hear them smiling. It's true. You can hear, and they told flight attendants if they're in a bad mood before the flight, because they got to work El Al, if they're in a bad mood before, they should start smiling an hour before the flight. It actually affects your mood. Smiling affects your mood. That's what the Torah is telling you. Okay, let's go on. This one addresses all of us. The next one. Zvulun l'chof yamim yishkon. Zvulun will live at the shore. V'hu l'chof anios ve'yachoson al tzidon. Zvulun are going to be the seafarers, and they will be supporting the next brother. Yisachar chamor gorem. Yisachar is a hard-boned donkey. Rovetz bein hamishpasayim, crouching between the borders. Vayar menucha kitov, he sees rest is good. Vesa oretz ki na'ema, and the land, the earth, the land is pleasant. Vayet shichmo lisbol, he crouches his shoulder to bear the burden. Vayhila mas oved, and he becomes an indentured laborer. Yisachar are the Torah learners. The Torah learners are compared to a donkey. A person who embarks on a life of Torah, a person who commits himself to the life of Torah, you're taking on a burden. Torah is not easy. Torah is not easy. The guy who learns in Kollel, and he's all day long, he's learning and thinking and working on another Tosos and working out. You've seen what Gemara is like, and you're doing this all day long, and it's a commitment, and you're doing it, and you're being supported by other people, which means they expect you to be learning. Whenever you're not doing something else, you're learning. That's what Kollel is. Kollel is that right now, I got to eat supper, I got to help my wife with the kids, and I got to go shopping. When I'm not doing something else, I'm back to learning. That's a burden. That's a yoke. Now, I once heard a fabulous explanation. It's extremely important for us because I think if you're like anybody who walks in, you start learning and you learn the Gemara, and all of a sudden you see what I've been spending a week, and I finished exactly 6 lines of Gemara in a week. And then you look on the shelf, whoa, there's a lot of books up there, and there's a lot of books up there, and there's a lot of books over there. And then you walk into the bay, how are you ever going to make any progress here? Okay, so I once heard, why is Yisachar compared to a donkey? So I heard an interesting story. A friend of mine told me like this. Reb Lezer Plachinsky was he was from the Bir Yeshiva, and he was a brother-in-law of Rav Elyashiv. He and Rav Elyashiv married sisters. So it tells you something about who Reb Lezer Plachinsky was. You've never heard of him maybe, but you've heard of Rav Elyashiv. And if he was picked as a son-in-law to be Rav Elyashiv's by the father-in-law, so he was a major Torah scholar. So he was once walking, and he saw these Arabs in a quarry in Jerusalem. They're quarrying out Jerusalem stone. So he's looking at these Arabs. This Arab is, back in the day, we're talking about, maybe 100 years ago, 80 years ago. And so they're quarrying out this heavy Jerusalem stone, like you got on the walls over here. And this Arab loads up the donkey, and they're down in the quarry, and he loads up the donkey, and the donkey now has to carry the stones all the way up to the top of the quarry. So the donkey takes 3 steps, and he stops. So the Arab smacks him with a stick. The donkey won't budge. Smacks him again, he won't budge. The Arab goes off to the side, takes a towel, drapes it over the donkey's head. The donkey puts his head down and starts walking, and next thing you know, he's out of the quarry. So Lezer Plachinsky said, now I understand the pasuk why Yisachar is compared to the donkey. What happened with that donkey? The donkey was loaded up. He took one look, and he said, whoa, I got to get from here to there? Forget about it. It's never going to happen. So he stopped moving. He hits him. Donkeys are stubborn. It's not going to move. So what did he do? He put a towel over his head. So the donkey looks down. Donkeys don't have good memory. He looks down, says, oh, I got to get from here to here. So he takes a step. He says, I got to get from here to here. Takes another step. Got to get from here to here. Takes another. Next thing you know, he's out of the quarry. He says, that's what happens. You take a look at a Gemara, and you open up the Gemara, and the first thing you do is like, whoa, when am I going to do all of that? That's a mistake. That's a mistake, because then you're never going to do any of it. The way you look at a Gemara is you say, this is the page I'm on right now. This is the Rashi I'm on. This is the Tosfos I'm on. Then you turn the page. This is the page I'm doing right now. This is the page I'm doing right now. I take one step at a time. Next thing you know, you finish the whole book. Next thing you know, you finish all Shas. Daf Yomi. One step at a time. 7.5 years, you complete the entire Shas. But don't worry, by the time you finish, you'll probably forget all of it. You got to go back to the beginning anyway. That's the nature of it. But at the end of the day, it's telling you, don't get discouraged. What are you worried about finishing? You're never going to finish anyway. You never finish. So what are you worried about finishing? The only thing that finishes is life. That's the only thing that finishes. Everything else, nothing else finishes. We got work to do. We're a donkey. Take one page at a time. Study what you're studying. One Mishnah, one Pasuk in Chumash, one page of Gemara. Yeah. Then you go on to the next. The next thing you know, you look back 3 months later, you say, hey, I accomplished something over here. Something actually happened over here. That's the comparison to the donkey. All right.